it works properly. Welcome to this weekly live stream about Uno Platform. My name is Jérôme Laba. I'm the CTO of Uno Platform. I spend about an hour every week taking a look at development in general, Uno Platform specifically, Visual Studio updates, if there are any, .NET development, things like that. Last week we spent a bit of time taking a look at Babylon JS integration in Uno app, and also custom namespaces in XAML. And this week we're going to take a look again at Babylon JS in a Uno library. This time it's going to be about the integration, not necessarily about the Babylon JS control itself. So the idea here is that we want to be able to take a Babylon JS control that's wrapped into something, a user control or any other library, and make it a class library that you can reuse across projects. It seems that this user, vrage, has been having issues with it, where the integration is not working properly because reasons. We're going to see how we can fix that and get that working. There's a sample that we can use here to make it easier for us to validate. And then later we're going to take a look at the default namespaces for XAML. Is something that probably will span probably a few more updates or iterations of this live stream to get it working, but we'll see. And that's it. So let's start with this one. And so I see TechRob is already here. Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining. And I see a few other people that have joined live. Thank you. So let's go. So this for this issue, we're going to take a look at the BJS integration here. So Babylon JS integration, and see what we can get. Let's see what it looks like. So let's take a look here. What we do get. So we're going to be opening this in Visual Studio 2026. I think I do have a recent enough version of it that we don't need. It was for last week. So let's see. Doesn't feel like there was any update from Visual Studio, so that's good. Should be good enough. And yeah, it shows that what we're trying to get is working properly with the latest. Oh no, there's an update. There we go. So probably an update on this one, so I'll be postponing for now. Great. So let's take a look at this solution. So we have two pieces here. We have the BJS integration, which is the class, the actual app that is not using native scale rendering, but that's fine. It has support for a Net9 as well as the 9 browser version, which is expected. We have a second library which is supporting the same thing. So Net9 for testing, Net9 browser, and Net9 Windows, so which is WinApp SDK. And we're going to see how we can get this particular content to work properly in our library. So let's try and see if we just build this app, what happens. So the user was reporting that it was failing for some build reason. Probably maybe the file is not the right place. Maybe it's not downloading at the right place or something like that. So we're going to try to figure that out and see what's failing. Okay, so we have our app running here. What do we have? We have Babylon is not defined. So we can see that Babylon JS tried to be loaded from something. I'm not exactly sure what that is. Let's go and search for that loading. Okay, so it's trying to execute some JavaScript code here, and it's failing because it's trying to instantiate Babylon engine, which is not loaded, which makes sense in that context because that's the origin of the issue. We have we're supposed to be loading a file that's called Babylon max.js, and it's not loaded. So let's see if we get that file in the output to start with. So to see if it's actually downloaded, we're going to take a look first as, is it part of the files that are downloaded? So we're going to clear sad data and then reload everything and see if we have it there. So the file that we need to have is called babylon.max.js. So we can see that the file is loaded. It's there, but may not be loaded in the right context. Maybe it can be, maybe it's something that needs to be defined globally and isn't. But the file is located, it is at the right place. Most likely it's loaded as part of a required JS import, which means that in that context it needs to be set up in their specific way. Otherwise, it's loaded its own module, which doesn't make it available globally. So to be able to do that, we're going to have to just go take a look at the integration that we can get in the documentation for Uno. I think we have the right documentation for this, but we're going to figure this out. Just to get the right place for understanding where that file is loaded, this is part of a file that's called uno.config.js. So you can see here that there's a set of files that are loaded. That's called Uno dependencies. And this is the set of files that are part of required JS loading. So this is loaded as sequentially as part of the startup, and those files are loaded inside of a required JS environment. So by default, it means that you're not going to get access to it unless you're requesting it, making it available as part of a global variable, at the window level, at least instead of a web page. So to work around this, we have to modify the way this file is integrated. So this is one of the right places to include it. It's actually handled automatically. You generally don't need to do the embedded resource aside, unless you want to have duplicates. So we can actually go try this out. So there's an implicit folder that's defined there. If you set it the right way, it will automatically take what's inside Wasm scripts and embed it into your app. So let's try it first to see if we get the right content. So I've removed the item resources. We're going to check if everything's set properly. So we can see that build action is set to none, but that's probably because the default is set that way. So to make sure that we have the right file and the right output, we're just going to take a look at the browser Wasm file here. We're going to open it in ILSpy just to see if it's doing the right integration. So I'm going to be taking a look at the input, and we can see that there's nothing in there. So it should have been included, but it's not. So maybe it's because it's Wasm integration, not too sure. So maybe there's a bug there that we should be fixing. But it should be there. So because it's not set to embedded resource, it doesn't work. We may have a problem in the Uno SDK. So we're going to have to take a look at that one later. So let's see what we can do to make it work aside from that issue first. So let's see if we rebuild this, and we could take a look again at the file in ILSpy. We should be having the resource integrated here. We can see that the Babylon.js max file is included as an embedded resource. CTechRob is asking, shouldn't you update first? I'm not too sure what you mean by update. Can you specify update what? That would help. So this is, we can see that the file is included properly. So that means that file is going to end up being as part of a set of dependencies for required JS, and it's going to be loaded that way. Now let's go take a look at the documentation. I could update, can do that. But it's not going to change that much because 6.2.36 doesn't fix anything related to this, but we can do it. We can see if it helps, but it's unlikely to change anything with that regard, because I think that the modification that we made for that version of Uno are not related to this. So we're going to have to take a look, but it's not there. So let's see, we can start it up again, but it's likely to do the same behavior. So we're gonna see the debugger is failing, but that's okay. It's because I opened the debugger, and if we can take a look again there, we're gonna see that Babylon.js is not defined, which is expected again. Okay, so in the documentation, we're gonna go take a look at the embedding feature that we have for the tooling for the Bootstrapper. So we have in the features here, we have JavaScript dependency management. And what is going to be happening there is that the definition that you're going to get when you're integrating from something that comes from the outer environment, or from a module. So this is an ECMA module, if I remember correctly. The module is going to be loaded as part of require, and the problem is that you're not going to get an instance you can use at the window level. So to do that, we're going to be taking that particular part and making a dependency on wasm.js, on Babylon.js this way, and get the right value out of it. So to do this, we're going to be adding a new item, and we're going to call it, let's call it Babylon, just Babylon.js. Let's call it Babylon Uno. Let's call it that way. Babylon Uno, and then we're going to be integrating, know what I did there. Open the file. And we're going to be integrating this as part of a dependency. So we see that we need to take a dependency on the Uno app base, and then, so this is HTML to Canvas. This was the example. We're going to take a dependency on the Babylon max.js file. So if we do this, we're going to take a dependency on it, and then we're going to say that Babylon is supposed to be defined. So my guess would be that depending on how the app is defined, so I think it was in main page, or no, maybe not. Oh no, it's Babylon.js control. So it's supposed to be in there. So I think that we're going to have to get Babylon probably available. So let's go and see if it would just pull Babylon directly. I haven't taken a look at the documentation, so I don't know if it's how it's supposed to be working, but we're going to figure it out. So this is the integration. Well, what that will do is that when Babylon-Uno.js is going to be loaded, it's going to wait for Babylon max.js to be loaded, and then it will return and execute that Lambda, which is going to be creating the Babylon instance of the top level export of Babylon max.js as something that is available globally. Not sure if it's going to work, but let's try it. There's probably something else that we can figure out in the meantime. So let's run that again. Let's see what happens. Okay, so this time we had Babylon is still not defined, but let's see if we had this time our Uno. Oh, I forgot about one thing. Because of that bug that makes it so that the JS files are not included, means that we have to do something like this. Put a star so that everything that's inside that folder gets updated properly. Let's try that again. So we're going to have those two files. Oh, I didn't modify the right one. My apologies. This is embedded resource that I need to modify. There we go. And then it's going to be reloading everything. And then we should be having our Babylon Uno configs executed there. Okay, so that works, but we still see that Babylon is still not defined. So do we get executed here? I don't know. So let's try and refresh. Okay, so it's not executed because it's not loaded for some reason. So we can see that Babylon max is not defined, which is expected to some extent. So maybe it's not the right folder. So maybe we should be placing Babylon.js. Let's see, I don't remember. So we need to modify it from the from here. So it could be that the .max is causing trouble. I'm not too sure. I don't remember the exact semantics for the name of that file. Should have started without the debugger. Start faster. Okay, so there's no error anymore, but it's still not working. Oh no, it worked actually. My bad. Okay, so we can see here that it says reading engine doesn't work, which is probably fine. So now we're gonna have to figure out what's inside that Babylon.js.max there. So I don't know if we can put a breakpoint there. I think we can. So let's try it again. We tend to think that Visual Studio would break properly on this. I don't recall. Will it break on it? It may take a while. Oh no, it was blocked on the. Yeah, no, it didn't work. It's integrated in a separate file, so it doesn't work. It's not the same location on the disk. So let's try without the debugger. Okay, debugger. That's something that I think Microsoft updated for Net 10. I'm eager to see. I haven't tried it yet. I haven't tried to see if it works better, because you can see that kind of thing. So when the debugger is not helping you, it kind of stalls and prevents everything from stopping properly. That's one of the issues of the WASM debugger. Okay, great this time. Okay, let's see. What do we get? So in this time, we get type error saying that engine is not defined. So that's the code that was supposed to be executed as part of a execution from the Babylon.js control. By the way, this is not a good way to do integration. Placing code like this as an eval is not the right way to work for a variety of reasons. But the first one is that it's difficult to put breakpoints in there. You have to put a debugger statement and then wait for the debugger to hit and then put additional breakpoints there. So the best way is to use JS import. We're going to refactor that a little bit afterwards so that we get the some better debuggability there. Great. So now let's restart and let's see where we can break. Okay, so we have RC is undefined, but okay, is that maybe because it didn't load anything? Let's see, what we do get. So Babylon.js is executed, but it feels like it's part of undefined. Okay, so it may be that the execution of Babylon.js is not working properly. That could be. Let's see, is the file the right one? So it's supposed to be in Babylon.js, Babylon Max.js. That's the right file. We can see that the C here is not defined. It's definitely not defined. Okay, so it got loaded, but it didn't do anything. So maybe there's something else that we didn't see. So we see Babylon Max.js has some content. And it has some content here that seems to have been materialized. It seems to be a function that exports a few things. So it's supposed to be defining Babylon.js, which is expected. I'm not sure if it executes this properly. I'm going to go and put breakpoints in there and see what happens and see if it executes anything there. Might not, so that may be why we don't get anything. Let's see. Or maybe it's delayed. Could be that as well. Maybe it's a global define and it doesn't register properly. So if we go back into sources and we search for Babylon Max.js, and we're going to put a few breakpoints up top and see what we get. So this is more of an issue of the way JavaScript files are integrated more than it is of packaging, aside from the fact that we needed to have an embedded resource set up the right way. But it's probably just an integration with that that integration with Babylon.js Max, Babylon Max.js. Okay, so we're executed there. We're at the right place, so it's loaded properly. From the call stack, seems to be executed as part of just a standalone execution from a loading. So there's no source per se. So do we have exports there? We don't have anything. We don't have module. We have modules. Module, does it have anything? No, the module doesn't have anything. So module's not defined. We'd actually break on that one. I don't remember. I think I moved one line. Yeah, I moved one line. Okay, so we have document, name, location. We have a few things in there that are defined already. So that's a set of color arguments. I don't know what E. So E is window, which is the owner of this. So we have module.exports. Maybe if we move one line, we're going to have something that's defined on window. Window dot. Is Babylon defined? No, it doesn't define anything. We have exports, maybe. Does exports do anything? No, that's WASM export, but that's not what we want here. We have e.babylon that's set. So Babylon on window is supposed to be set, but it doesn't execute for some reason. Probably because it's supposed to be executed as an export. So maybe we need to execute the output. Okay, so it's executing something. So it completed the load here, but still undefined. Okay, so I'm not too sure exactly what we should be saying we'd be doing here, because we're supposed to be having we have something defined here. But let's say, we have exports there. We have export, but no, export is not, export is a keyword, so that doesn't work. On window, do we have Babylon.js? We have Babylon that was defined because we executed that line. That's not what we want. No, that's not what we want. That's not going to work. So that's interesting, because that means that from the call stack that we have here, from the execute CB here, we should be having some return value that's not there. So that's our lambda that we executed. That's a check. Let's see, we did have the function location that was executed there. We have a bit of map. I have to say I don't know exactly how that works there. You have exports. E is not defined. This module is not defined. We fixed that's loading. That's internal loading. That's not going to help. Okay, so that's something that's specific to the way Babylon.js is instantiated, and definitely it's not doing what we think it does. What we could try is to see if we put a statement after the require, maybe we're going to find something. Let's see. Let's try that. So if we get there after the require, actually require is going to be executed in line, so it's probably not going to help. It's very surprising that we don't get anything in there. Hey, Martin. Hope you're having fun at the conference. So let's try again. Let's see what else we could get from there. So we're still not reading engine. So that's where we are. So we needed to be able to read from the Babylon here, and this is empty, regardless of the fact that Babylon.js is actually executed and returns. It's supposed to be returning something, but it doesn't. We can't do require at that point. Atomic as well. So require could be something that we can use, but that's not going to help. The Babylon Max chess, so we could probably try to figure out something there at the end. So if we do have, we could try to modify the Babylon Max.js at the end and see what we get from the outside of this. So this is a big file, but actually this is supposed to be returning something, is it? Ooh, yeah, the file's a bit too big. It's a one-liner. That's not going to help. Okay, so let's go read from the Babylon Max at the end. So let's see what we have at the end. So this is defining something that's executable. This is returning a function. Yeah, it's defining a function here from this one, but it's probably executed there. Yeah, so we can see that there's the, oh, I'm not sure, I'm not even sure where that one goes. So we have that selector here, that parenthesis here. Let's see if I don't select anything. Where does it go? Oh, it goes there. Okay, so it's the global definition. So it's that one is for the inner definition. And come on. Inner definition. So that one executes. Okay, so it's returning a function. So that's probably what doesn't do anything. Let's try this. Let's try at the end. Let's materialize it. Not sure if it's going to help, but who knows? Oh boy. Yeah, large file like this doesn't like it that much. Let's open it in a separate IDE. We're gonna go and poke at VS Code. Maybe it's gonna help there. So Cal is here, so maybe he does. Maybe he does know. He's a bit more familiar with than I am with modules and things like that. Maybe he knows. Do you know, Cal, for the use of that kind of element? If you how do you need to materialize it from require? Maybe there's something else that I don't see. I thought the fact that we didn't say anything from Babylon, the fact that we didn't place the JS at the end would be enough. It feels like there's something else, because in the documentation where we were talking about dependency management, the fact that you would say HTML canvas, it would have been enough to just poke at the .js at the end, but it feels like we may need to remove the .max at the end. So we're gonna try this out afterwards. So let's try quickly to see if the materialization of the execution of the lambda that's out of the binary here. Okay, intermediate value is not a function. Okay, so it's not a function. It's definitely something else. It evaluates to something, but that something is not returned as part of the require execution. That's something else. So that's not what we needed. So let's undo the change there. We're going to rename the file and call it, let's call it just Babylon. And then here, we're just going to be asking for Babylon. Maybe I know there's some, subtleties with the use of require.js at that point. Or maybe it's an update to require.js that we need to make, but in that context, it's a bit more difficult. But it's because it's part of the Uno bootstrapper, so maybe a bit more difficult to do. Let's try again. That's going to be a good documentation to update, that's for sure. Okay, so Babylon is not defined, which is fine. We have a syntax error. Oh. Okay, so try to load Babylon plain and simple, and it didn't work, which is not expected. I'm surprised that the documentation is mentioning that we should be doing the loading this way. So we can define modules like this. We can define modules this way for dependencies. So we can do require with a list of content with a file like this, but multiple dependencies are supposed to be working, but it looks like it's not picking it up properly. I'm really surprised by the fact that we have to put .js at the end. So either we made an update to the definitions here, or it means that the set of definitions are not loaded in the right way. Or maybe I forgot to change the name there. No, it's set up properly. If I take a look at the network, what does the network do? If I reload the file completely, let's see, do we have Babylon? Okay, we don't have Babylon at all. So that may be another problem. Okay, so let's see. Oh, double clicked, shouldn't have. So we don't have the Babylon file at all. Is there some trick that was done before that I missed? So we have the wasm script files that are set to embed it here. Oh, that's why. There you go. So they got removed. That's not helping. So Visual Studio tends to add a few things. When you're manipulating the files directly there, it tends to add item groups that are breaking things up. They should not be there. So let's remove all of those. They're not supposed to be. They're not supposed to be there. Yeah, it must be embedded. So so the first parameter must be an array. It's a common problem. It seems to be correct in your case. It must be embedded. Oh yeah, no, it must be embedded, the resource. Yes. Yes, ouch. Visual Studio tends to modify a few too much. Okay, so we have Babylon still failing, but is it loaded this time? Maybe there's something else. So if we do clear the app again, we reload, see in the network. So Babylon JS was actually loaded. This is okay. And so the file is there, but Babylon just plain and simple doesn't work. So that means that the integration in here is not the right one. So it should be babylon.js. So maybe it's the array that doesn't work, but it feels like it's wrong. I think it was supposed to be an array. So maybe that's what's not working there. Okay, invalid require call. So we need to have a set of parameters. Yeah, require dependency. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So that's asynchronous loading. So asynchronous loading is supposed to be done this way. Okay, so that's correct. We should be having it as an array. So that's the right way to do it. But it is still not working. Okay. So it is loading. The only error that we have is the one that's coming from the loading of our file, which is empty. So Babylon Uno, so that one again. This one is still empty. Yeah, still undefined because but it still executed the content. So it means that there's something else in the definition of the Babylon JS content that is incorrect. Now, the interesting thing is that when we were trying to work with the Babylon JS last week, it was working. So maybe there's something else that we missed with Babylon JS. So let's go take a look at the previous integration that we have. So that one was working, and it was included in a WASM script. It was the same file, but for some reason it's not including it properly. So in there we had Babylon engine that was set up properly. It was executed this way as WASM script. Was there something else that we were missing? So we had the inclusion was done in the right way. Feels like there's something else that I'm not seeing. It's supposed to be included properly. So Babylon JS at that point was supposed to be included in the global definition. So let's go take a look. Let's execute that sample that we had last week and see what we get, because it feels like there's something different. So maybe it's the way because we're including it from a separate library, but it feels like it's not supposed to do that. What do we have here? So we have Babylon JS that it's executed here. Okay, I'm not too sure what that is. Okay, so Babylon JS is starting up, which is okay. And if we search for Babylon, no, it's not there. Oh, that's interesting. That is very interesting. So maybe it's a story of context. Maybe it's a story of context, which may mean that the definition of Babylon that we have at that location is set up differently, because this is supposed to be something that we have available globally. Let's see if I do this. Yeah, the file is there because it's loaded, Cal. See, so if we take a look at the execution here, we have the Babylon JS file that is included. So it's definitely available as part of the folder, and it's loaded because the content is there. So it's executing the right content. It's there properly. So it feels like there's something else that we're missing. Okay, so if I go back in there, if I execute that line, Babylon is not defined. Okay, so that means that it's a story of context. So that means that for some reason, the way this is executed is working in the other context, but not it's working in the other context, but not this one. So maybe let's try something. Maybe the execute JavaScript is behaving differently in that context. I don't know, but I suggested originally that we should be executing the code that we have in the library, not as part of a not as part of an evaluation, but as a JS import. So let's do it that way. So instead of just doing the require at the top, we're going to be defining a method that we have at the top. And if I remember correctly, we need to be defining our method from the top level. So we can go find some, I think we have that dependency management there. So that's a requirement that we're defining here. I don't think we're defining anything. Yeah, we're just defining a module, but we're not defining a function that can be executed. So let's make it part of the global environment. So let's make a method there. So we're going to be making a function. We're going to take the function that we have in our control here. So take all that code, and we're going to be doing something that's called initialize Babylon Uno, which is going to paste all of it here. And so we can take out all the double quotes. Okay. So this is returning a scene that we have. And that's it. So this is defined globally at it's supposed to be defined at the window level. So that means that we can take this initialize Babylon Uno and execute it directly on the event. I'm just going to see if we can get, if we do get, no, we don't have anything here. Okay. So we're going to make a internal class that's going to be managing the dependency. So private partial class. We're going to call native, and we're going to call that one. Actually, I don't think we need to. Yeah, let's call it partial. And this is going to be called partial static partial. And it's called initialize Babylon Uno. This is returning nothing. I don't believe it's not an async method, so we can go there. JS import, and then we need to make an import from global this and use the method that's called initialize Babylon Uno. And it's not happy because it's probably private and it's not supposed to be used that way. Unsafe code must be using unsafe. Don't know if it's going to work. We're probably going to have to put unsafe at the top level. Yeah, we need to add the unsafe support at the global level. So it modified the project so that unsafe block is set to true. So that's good. And so now that we have our Babylon initialization, we can call it from here. So we can call initialize Babylon Uno, and then we can remove that execute JavaScript that we had there. So let's see if it fixes our context issue. It may not be the right one, but let's see if it does. We're still executing as part of the global context, so maybe there's something else that we don't have that we need to include. Oh, I used the debugger. I don't want that. Okay. So what else do we see? So it's still failing on the Babylon thing that we have, which means that our code is executed, which is good, but that's not what we need. So we know that now we're executing that portion. So if we refresh, we're getting into that initialized Babylon. So you can see that now I can put a breakpoint there and just, make it work. That's pretty much what we wanted. Now, the thing is that we're still having an issue because we don't have our require working properly. I wonder if we can just require it from here directly. I don't remember if we can do that. It's probably, if I re-execute require there, does it do anything? We tend to think it would, but okay, it executes something. Unexpected token. I probably missed. Oh, yes. Require args. Oh, it returned the function, but it's, oh, that's curious. Yeah, it's supposed to have been executing something, but it feels like it's not. Yeah, it returns a function that's not useful. Okay, so that's not there. So that was supposed to be working. That is working from the other side, but it's not working in there. So what could be the difference? I wonder if the other side had some trick, because maybe it was because the integration with the WASM script is done in a separate way. Maybe it's because it's in the assets. Let's go take a look. Because if it's defined in the assets, it may be loaded as part of the assets from. Yeah, that may be that. So let's see. Actually, I think it's that. That's probably why we have a very big difference there. So we're gonna have to figure out the loading part with require. We're gonna get there. Okay, so if we take a look again at the original integration with Babylon.js, so the one that actually worked, I think if I take a look at it again, that we had in the index Babylon.js executed as part of the original. No, it's not there either. So I would have thought that it was executed. Oh, no, it's there. See, there's an integration of Babylon viewer that's defined in that location. So that's probably what makes it work. Now the question is, why do we have that integrated there? Maybe it's part of some integration that was done manually. Custom JavaScript. There we go. Okay, so it's a custom integration. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, that explains why it works. So the reason it works is that it's loaded in that context as part of the module, and then because it's a module, then it's it returns something that's available as part of the global environment, and we're not in that context when we're loading it from a class library. So that makes sense. Thanks, Decrob. It explains quite a bit. So what we need to make is to make the Babylon.js file that we have here, that one to open and be loaded as part of the required JS environment. So there's probably something that we're missing with regards to the way required JS integrates with the whole thing. Maybe it's not compatible with required JS. That could also be. We're going to go take a look at some integration that we had in the Bootstrapper. I think we had a few things in there. With some of the samples that had some integration we require. Well, it's probably not going to work, so we're going to clone the repo. Yeah, no, it doesn't go for code. Okay, so let's go clone the repo. I don't think I have it available on that machine. Yeah, I did have it. Good. Okay, so let's go take a look at the samples. So we had a few samples there. Maybe that's where the documentation is lacking for the inclusion of JavaScript files, or at least JavaScript files as part of required JS, the required JS environment. So we have a few things in the base sample, so maybe that one can help. So we had a required JS with a test JS here. We have a define that does a few things. We have some exports there. We have the initialized exports with the module, but that one is the module that for WebAssembly, so that's not what we want. So we have some export, but that one is part of another set of exports that are not interesting in that context. What else do we have? If we search for require, do we have some samples that do require? So there's a require for Puppeteer, but that one is not in the right context. We have require FS, but that's also in a context that is not the right one. Puppeteer path, no, that's definitely not that. We have a require, but that's for global module, which is something different. This is because we're in a global module. Actually, actually, maybe. Let's try it. Let's see. Let's see if it works. Maybe we can execute require directly and just not making it synchronous, because we know when we're executing that code in Uno.js with initialize Babylon, we know that everything's been loaded up front. So maybe that's enough to get something working. So if we do execute the same thing here, let's see if it helps. So if we go for, well, global is not the right way here, so we could probably just do window to Babylon. So let's go try this out. I wish module management was a little bit easier, but the thing is that there were so many different module type with ESM and ECMA modules, and I don't remember the other ones. There are a few others that are that are defined there that are making everything a bit too much convoluted. But yeah, that's what we have right now. Okay, so if we refresh that, what do we have? So we can execute Babylon. Okay, the require actually did work, but it didn't load anything. It returned null, but it didn't fail, which is interesting, because it actually got to the point where it could execute the Babylon JS requirement, but it didn't do anything. It may be that the Babylon JS is not returning anything. That may be the case, or maybe it's returning something else. I wonder if so. Require is just a method. So there's no environment that we can get. Is there exports that we can use here? No, the exports is not available. You know, there's WASM exports and .NET exports. It's not there. Well, let's go and figure out what we have inside require. Maybe we're going to be able to figure out something else. So we have a context name in require. We probably could have the symbols, but you know, it's not there for that. We have a context. What's in context? Nothing. We have undefined. We have module complete load. We have a map. We have a few other things. We have scopes. Not super useful there. Load, enable CB, that's not useful. Did we have any registry? We have a Babylon JS registry. Okay, so we know that it's loaded. That's good. But for some reason, we're not getting it. We're not getting it as a return value. Is Babylon JS returning anything? So it has an export. We has a few things here. Babylon JS. Maybe we can use just Babylon JS as a name. Like this. If we just required Babylon JS as a name, maybe because it's named that way, maybe we can use it this way. Okay, so it didn't refresh. Let's do a refresh. It's not stopping anywhere. Okay, Babylon JS has not been loaded yet for the context. Okay, use require with okay, so that we need to change. Okay, so we need to have brackets. That's interesting because it would require to return a list of things, which is odd, but okay. Okay, ensure that you have an AMD version in your module. Not sure I can specify a version that would be inside the module itself. Is it something that I can change? I'm not too sure there. Okay, Babylon engine is not a constructor. Okay, we're getting there. That's improving. So let's go back into our file for Babylon Uno. What do we get? Maybe we're going to get something that we can execute. Who knows? Oh, that's good. Okay, so we have something. Can we execute that? Not really. Invalid require call. So it's returning a function. All right, let's call it. Let's see what happens at runtime. Feels like it definitely feels wrong. That's not the right. That's not what it's supposed to do. Anyone in attendance that's familiar enough with require, you may know about that part better than I do. Okay, Babylon Engine is still not a constructor, which is expected and to some extent. It's still returning this. We have toURL is browser defined, scopes, global window. Yeah, it's kind of returning something that is supposed to be defined. Yeah, that's definitely not useful. Specified. I don't know what that is. I do not know what that is. So we know that Babylon.js is actually loaded because it's doing the right thing here. Oh, it's async. Oh, is it? Okay. Oh, okay. So let's, okay. So if it's surprising that it's async, I recall the require was async, but if we can create, maybe it's a promise. Feels like, I didn't think it was a promise, but doesn't feel like a promise. Must create it in the callback. Okay, you say, oh, okay, you're saying that require should be in a, okay, so I get it. Okay, got it. So we need to make a require with a callback instead. I got it. Then, so we're going to do pretty much the same thing here. So let's try it again. We're going to be doing this, but the thing is that we're not going to be executing it synchronously. Well, let's hope we will, but I'm not sure. So if it's not synchronous, that means that on the next line, we're going to be missing the content, but okay, so engine's still not defined. Yeah, it's still, oop, no. So if we do F8. Oh, there we have it. Okay, that's good. Okay, so that works. That works, but it doesn't work here, but it works there. Okay. So maybe we need to make it a two-step. Let's try that. It's a bit surprising. Copy sequence to call back, realize and fetch inside. Yes, that it does a fetch. That makes sense, but that's that. But the surprising part is that this portion should be working, but it's not. So maybe we should be just doing Babylon.js like this. It may be enough. Let's try. Let's try it there. But that one is likely going to be weird because Babylon.js is not defined at the moment where we're executing it. So that's probably wrong. Let's see. Okay, Babylon.js is not defined. So it's not loaded at that time, which makes sense. Okay, so maybe we could do it as an async, yeah, let's make it async. We're going to do it. We're going to make it async, and we're going to make that portion async as well. And we're going to make it an async initialization that waits for the result. So we need to make a promise there. It's been a while, so promise. Well, actually, we could probably use this. Let's see, what does it do? Does it load asynchronously? Okay, we're gonna make a separate function for this. We're gonna make a run Babylon Uno here, and then we're gonna be making a requirement for loading it here asynchronously. So we're gonna make it async. We're gonna make it wait so that it returns properly. So to do this, so we can make it load. Oh, there you go. Babylon resolve. Okay, so we're gonna make it load from local script, but that's fine. And I'll node is resolve, which is okay. That's not what we need. So we're gonna make it look like this. We don't want it to load from the CDN. We want it to load locally. And then we're going to make it resolve like this. So we make a promise that's awaiting for the resolution of required to execute properly. And we don't need to make it two methods actually now, because it's going to be async. So we're good. And so we have a Babylon.js. So Babylon.js here was supposed to be the original one. So we're going to be reverting back to what we had originally, which was, I don't remember by heart. That was that one. Actually, no, we don't need to load it at all, because it's going to be part of the loading, because it's part of the wasm script files. Okay, there we go. So we can keep it that way. So now we've made our async function to wait for the Babylon.js to be loaded, which is what we wanted. Now, the only thing that we need to do is to make sure that the Babylon.js control is actually initializing asynchronously. So that one is supposed to be async. So we're going to make it the task. We're not going to wait for the initialization for now. We're going to see that afterwards. If we need to make it steps, make it an actual async function. I want to avoid doing async void. So let's see what we get this time. Okay, so Babylon.js was initialized, but it's not doing anything yet, but it worked. So we can see that Babylon.js was initialized. So it's probably not initializing in the right contexts, probably because it's missing some environment execution. So it's missing an ID. Let's go see what we have in initialization here. So we have a canvas. We have a render canvas that's supposed to be there. Do we have a render canvas? Doesn't feel like we do. Probably gonna have to write one. Define width and height for the control. Yes, let's do that. So it doesn't have a width and height. Oh, it's not even defined, is it? Oh no, it's there. Great. Let's do that for now. But it feels like it's still not enough. We still need to have a render canvas. Do we have a render canvas defined? So we have in Babylon Uno, we have our render canvas there. Is it defined somewhere? Okay, we have a create a canvas element here. Okay, so this render canvas, that's an HTML canvas. It's supposed to be stretched to its parent. That's good. So that's what we wanted. And let's see. Oh, there you go. All right. That was difficult. Feels like there's something about Babylon that should be working with required JS, but doesn't. I mean, the thing is that it should be returning something, because at that location it does, but when we're executing it up front as part of a promise resolution, it doesn't. So there's something else that's broken. But I mean, that's one way to do it. It's not pretty, but at least it does work. But we're going to have to refine the documentation to help in that context, because Babylon.js is definitely not the only library that is using that particular way of loading things. I'm also surprised about the name here. I mean, it has to be the name that's defined by it's a name, but that's defined by the original loading. So that means that you have to run require multiple times to get it to execute properly. Okay, so yeah, definitely we have some documentation to update there, because it's a bit more difficult than it should, but still, we're going to document this one. That's better than that we had before. Does that answer your question, TechRob? I think you were the original poster of that issue, or took part of that on that issue. But at least we get it to run at this point, and we have. Not sure the way that goes, but yeah, it works. Very good. Okay, so what we did modify around was a few things. We modified the fact that we're now initializing Babylon Uno as a JS import instead of just pasting a bit of JavaScript directly as a C# piece here. We do know that there's a problem with the embedded resources support inside of libraries, and we're going to take a look at that one quickly because it's probably not too far in the sources, but it's supposed to be working. And we know also that we can use the await promise here to await from something that has been loaded as part of the environment. So the fact that Babylon.js was loaded and as a module, that means that you can use that module later on as a require to get the value from the lambda that's defined there. It's weird. It's not super async oriented, but doing it this way actually does work. So you can add assets by including it in the folder. You mean including in the folder assets there? You mean creating an assets folder like this? So you make an assets folder, and then you're trying to include assets from there. Okay, I think there's one asset folder that's not included. Okay, so let's add something. Let's put a text file. Let's put a text file. So the text file is supposed to be set as content, which is the default when you're putting an item in there. And content is supposed to be automatically included as part of the output when you're building. So the important part there is that content is not in the output folder when you're building. That's the weird part of the way things are working here. They might not be integrated in the output folder of the build for a variety of reasons, but that's how .NET works when it's publishing content. So you can see that the files are not there. It might be. Let's remove the root folder. I'm gonna just rebuild it and see where the files are placed. But let's go take a look just to be sure. Okay, so we got wroot assets, and okay, so you got shared assets, which part of that folder, but it's not in that folder. It might be included as part of a separate lookup. So to get the right file, but to know that it's been included, you can find something around there. Oh, and also it's generally part of a separate folder, which is not there. Let's see, what do we have it here? Okay, see, it's there. So the interesting thing is that when you're placing assets inside of a library, the output is always going to be in a folder that's named by the name of the library and the path inside the library. You can't see that file there because it's not a publish of the app. So let's I'm going to show you that as well. So if you go in there and you do .NET publish, you get to do. So if you do .NET publish, then at that point in the publish folder, you're going to get all the assets that are included. So it's running the linker. So it's going to take a few seconds. So if we go in the release folder, we're going to find the publish folder. It's going to be there when the build is done. So assets are not loaded unless you ask for them. Okay, so that's why you're not seeing it. So to be able to get the asset, you're going to have to pull it up using the storage folder function that's available there. Storage file. So that function is the right one. So get file from application URI async. And then at that point, you can get the file using msappx and the rest. But the files are not loaded. The assets file are not loaded automatically. They're loaded on demand. Okay, so it's compressing assets. And then once it's done, it should be placing everything in the publish folder. It takes a bit of time, of course. There we go. So in the publish folder, you're going to see the WoW root, and then you're going to see that the BJS control file is there 3 times, of course, for the different compressions. And then you're going to get your result. So the file is there, but you have to ask for it explicitly. It's not going to be loaded automatically because no one's asking for it. It's completely lazy at that point. And let's go take a look quickly at the inclusion of assets in applications for libraries. So if we take a look there, let me see if we can get the build logging. There you go. We have the build logging. We're going to be enabling the build logging to see what we get when we're building here. So let's say I remove the embedding of resources in there. Let's see what we get. Not sure what it's doing. Okay, so I do a rebuild. Okay, it's finished. I'm opening that into the binlog viewer to see what we get. And so we're trying to figure out why WASM script files are not included in the right folder. So WASM script. So we can see that items are added to none, which is expected. But for some reason, the rest is not included. So maybe it's because of the fact that platform is not defined for some reason. Could be something like that. So to get a bit more visibility, we're going to go and build the library manually. Manually here, so we get a full bin log. Hopefully we're going to get everything. So we search for WASM scripts. So WASM scripts, we get none all over the place, which is expected. But we're not getting anything that's related to the inclusion of embedded resources. So embedded resources are supposed to be included by this item group from the UNO SDK, but it's not working because maybe WASM project folder is not defined. That could be. WASM project folder is defined. So we got embedded resources. No, it's included the WASM script, the WASM map manifest automatically, but it's not including the rest. So no, that's not the right place. There's another place. That's actually surprising. I thought we included that automatically, but that doesn't seem to be the case. I thought we did. Oh, that's a change. So we're supposed. I thought we did include every JavaScript file automatically as part of the embedded resources, but we're definitely not doing it. We're doing it for the app manifest, but we're not doing it for the rest. So you have to include, for now, we have to include embedded resources automatically because it's not the case. We may consider doing it at some point, but the problem is that when we do things like this and we add embedded resources after the fact, you may end up with duplicates, which is not something that you want to have. So it kind of breaks everything up. So we might do it when we're going to be changing for UNO 7, for instance, or maybe we can add that as a opt-in feature so that WASM script is automatically included. So that's the right way to do it. So right now, you have to include embedded resources this way, otherwise it won't work. It will not be picked up by the build system. Great. Well, that's it. That's one less issue that we have. So we're gonna have to do a little bit of changing and manipulation of the documentation so that it gets clearer. But that was an interesting one, and into the weeds of required JS and all of that's related. That's good. So I hope you learned a bunch. I will see you next week. And until then, happy coding. Bye for now.